Welcome to the Cycling in Alignment podcast, an examination of cycling as a practice and dialogue about the integration of sport in right relationship to your life.
Greetings and salutations, Space Monkeys. Before we begin our episode, a brief reminder that this podcast depends on support from the audience. The reason I am able to continue with this project is because of the support of patrons. If you are a member of my audience and you feel I have offered you insight or added value to your cycling journey, please consider a visit to my website, colbypierce.com, where you can make a contribution to the Cycling in Alignment podcast. You can support the show for as little as $8 for a one-time contribution, or choose to subscribe as an ongoing member. Thank you for your consideration. Here's your reminder to think critically, act intuitively, and pedal consciously. Hello there, Starship Troopers. Welcome back to another episode of the Cycling in Alignment podcast. You have arrived at the second part of the conversation with Lawrence Van Lingen. We had so much to say to each other, we had to break it into two separate episodes. If you want to jump in, coming in hot to this episode, you're welcome to do so, but you also may prefer to listen to the first part. In any case, I hope you enjoy our conversation. Thanks for listening. I think watching Tadej's arc is going to be really interesting, and seeing how he continues to kind of work with what the amazing things that he has been given in this world. And
the unfortunate thing is, like, at that level of clean competition, the body can sensitize to pain, and you don't get tougher, you get weaker, or you get more sensitive to it and discomfort. And so there is a and you start to accumulate the hours, the tension, your body metrics change. When you're young, you produce in massive amounts of natural testosterone. That starts diminishing, your flexibility starts to change. So, he's sort of getting to the point of his career where the nature of his cycling could actually change quite a bit. So we hope it's preserved for as long as possible, because it is a joy to watch him race about.
He's inspirational. It's funny, the commentary we get on cycling, because you kind of get these polarizations, right? Like, some people are like, people worship Tadej, but at the same time they bitch about him. Like, oh man, all racing is boring now because he wins everything, and especially when he wins by 5 minutes. Like, this is boring. It's like, how? No, it's not. This is still inspirational. Like, people complain about the Tour when somebody wins it by 5 minutes, and they complain about the Giro when someone wins it by 12 seconds, because they're like, oh, well, the level of the field wasn't that high. There was no true champion. It's like, look, man, pick your flavor here. Like, just enjoy the fact that people are racing at this level, and the outcome is the outcome. And when every time someone wins a race, they do something that is absolutely insane, the level of focus and professionalism. And also, I don't think people understand how insane this lifestyle is. Like, every single person in this peloton has a gut microbiome that is capable of living off of airport food like 200 days a year, and being on like 200 flights a year, and racing in probably 16 different countries, maybe more. Like, the level of work and the amount of extracurricular stress they deal with, let alone like, people focus on the watts and the KJs. And that's a massive stress, but you're missing the other 40% of the life load they deal with, sleeping in shitty French hotel rooms and on crappy little mattresses that have had God knows what happen on them. Like, that's their entire lives.
And also, to speak to that again, it just brings it back. Like, you need that healthy interoception, you need breathing, you need a sense of authenticity, you need a sense of deep personal who you are, because otherwise you're going to get pulled apart. And whatever that process, it's different for different people, but like, that is if you want it to be sustainable, there needs to be it almost always just reverts back to, and the neuroscience is great on this now. Your breath is probably the best way to segue into a real sense of autonomic nervous system health. And healthy breathing implies being very comfortable in your own skin, very comfortable with who you are. Like, so a lot of people don't like breath work or meditation, because like they really don't want to spend time with themselves. But again, then that Well, let's say a lot of people run away from their problems. And so you could be riding your bike away from your problems. That's not really where the deep introspection and the sort of the sense of healthy, sustainable, high performance lives. You know, and there's a lot of people that have got very far in the cycling world running away from their problems.
It can be an effective driver, right?
For a while,
but it's masking, you know, that dragon's going to eventually come out.
Yeah.
Would be how I would say it. I had a teacher say to me many years ago, he said, you know, do you meditate? And I said, well, I go for long bike rides by myself. And he said, okay, that's great. That's meditative. That is not meditation.
Yeah.
You need to sit still in meditation. So I think what you're getting at is some people they're not capable of sitting with themselves in stillness. The only way they can be with themselves is moving.
Yeah.
Which would say to me probably that they don't feel safe being still in their bodies. So we would ask that question.
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Yeah. What's under the hood?
Yeah.
And it's okay if it's not great. You just need to recognize it.
Yep.
And it's very important for females. So females are more sensitive. Their mitochondria just operate different. Like if you want the female's mitochondria to sing, they need to be seen, safe, heard, be able to express themselves, and generally speaking, happy. Female riders and lone wolf and, you know, angry with the world. That
doesn't work with the women most of the time.
It might for a short period of time, but I don't think it works for very long. And for men, it's also, you know, unfortunately, you just see it play out again and again. It can work and can be a massive driver to excellence. But then, as you say, the dragon comes out, and, you know, what's the rest of your life look like?
Right.
You know, afterwards, and it often cuts short a career where you make very questionable choices during the career.
Well, especially if you let that paradigm drive you for a while, you're super angry and unhappy, and it gets positively reinforced because you get a contract and you win races. And it's like, well, obviously I've got to do more of this.
Yeah. And then your
double down.
Your identity's wrapped up in dysfunction.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's certainly, like, again, that Michael Jordan, he just talks and you know, like how much he used to visualize his races, and in any free moment, any spare time, he was visualizing his race. It probably doesn't make for a very personable person, or, you know, like, so that level of mastery requires dedication, obsession in a healthy as possible way. You know, that's for sure. But so it is interesting because it is, you've got to protect self. You've got to be pretty selfish. You know, it's a tough space to navigate. And like you say, it's an absolute mess out there. So again, you know, the more secure you are in who you are, how you ride the bike. I mean, literally, you know, people could be going ankling down and Tadej does this, and, you know, he could turn around and say, yeah, that didn't work for me. And tomorrow he's just flat back, slammed the saddle back down and slamming through his heels. And we're like, oh, I thought we were doing this today.
Yeah.
You know? So don't get pulled out of your process, and really double down on your process and figure out, really get to know your spirit animal.
Yeah.
Because if you're a spirit animal scorpion, you need to know.
Yeah.
You know, there's no, you can get very, very ill. Look, we all wear masks. So, you know, I'm in my podcast voice here.
Right.
And I have a podcast, I'm speaking from authority and knowledge mask on, as it were. So we all wear masks all the time. So authenticity is a funny word. But generally speaking, you get very, very sick if you're not able to express and understand who you are. And, you know, so I think, again, you know, there's dis-ease and ease and healthy high performance. And sometimes you can have billionaires are really good examples of unhealthy overachievement, often.
Which probably is most of the World Tour peloton, unfortunately. That's why I think Tadej is such an exception. Because you can see that child, like, he's just playing the game, but he just happens to be the best in the world.
And now everyone's playing his game and then playing catch up and being pulled out of their process, which just defaults back to him. But I think Wout van Aert said, like, you know, or even Van der Poel said, like, just, you know, that's him. That's not me. The best thing I can do for my riding is focus on my riding and me, not that. You know, he's got no control over how many watts
Tadej does.
does, you know, and so,
which speaks to their self-center, which is clearly very established.
Van der Poel for sure.
And kudos to that guy. Like, I mean, they're in hard positions right now. You can see the frustration in Remco and because he's so good, but at the same time, there's Tadej. And I mean, this is cycling. Like for apparently everyone except Tadej at the moment, there's always there on any given day there could be one guy who's better than you.
Yeah.
And it just is what it is. You can have the best ride of your career and still get beat. And that's why you signed up.
Yeah.
You signed up to have that experience.
Yes.
Tadej signed up apparently to have the experience where he was always the best guy so far. Just about. I mean, we have to remember he lost the Tour to Vinigo a few years ago, right? Or to no, it wasn't Vinigo, it was Primos.
But no, totally. But there's no ways he's performing at that level if he doesn't acknowledge and know for himself that anyone can take me down. Someone can have a day, and I can make mistakes and lose it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't excite him. Because you're not getting that level out of your body unless you're pumped for what you're doing, and it's there'll be a competition, and he absolutely recognizes I need to be on top of my game because there's zero doubt that he is not taking this for granted, and he is not sort of what did Prefontaine say, sacrificing the gift. He is, he had acknowledged he's got a gift, but he is consummate about expressing that gift, and he's not taking that lightly at all. Otherwise you're just never going to get that out of your body.
Yeah. There's no universe where he's just going to roll up and half-ass it and still win stuff. It's the level's way too high.
And the level of concentration and not making mistakes and being dialed and being on it, like he's not daydreaming in the peloton.
The other outstanding example that I have to bring up, I did a podcast on recently, was Alyssa Liu. I mean, did you follow her story much?
No.
Oh, she's fascinating. So she's an ice skater who was brought up in ice skating with a father who was very, very supportive, overly supportive. Like from what I've read, and this is just what I've read, like helicopter parent times 100.
Yeah.
And she went through the sport and had great success. I think she was world champion, if I'm not mistaken. And then she stopped. She quit. Went away, had a normal, she was very young. She had like a normal high school experience and hung out with her friends at the beach and did high school stuff.
Yeah.
And then came back to the sport, but dictated that it was going to be 100% on her terms. She said, no one's going to tell me how to train. No one's going to tell me how to eat. No one's going to tell me I'm fat. I'm going to make my own program.
Yeah.
I'm going to design my own costumes. I'm going to do my own choreography.
Yes, I heard about this. Yeah.
And we went to the Olympics and just danced. Like she just went and was like, this is a performance. This is an opportunity for me to perform for people, which I love doing on ice skates.
Yeah.
And at the end, there's medals.
Yeah.
But that's like, at the end, there's medals.
Yeah.
And she crushed it.
Yeah.
Of course she crushed it.
Yeah.
Like, of course she did. Because every other person was like, this is the most important day of my entire life. I'm freaking out. I have to win. I have to win. I have to win. And she was like, I'm here to enjoy myself.
Yeah.
And you just saw the joy radiating out of her.
Yeah. And that's
so beautiful.
I mean, that's what I say is mastery. If you do mastery, the medals come. But if you're chasing the medals, but again, that's authenticity. Are you the driver? Most people, it's sad to say that the tail is wagging them. And it's again with muscle. So this is, we talk about muscle tone and core.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want as much ease in your movement as absolutely humanly possible.
And minimum effective dose.
Yeah. And rhythm and timing and fluidity, all that. And the fatigue is going to come from tightening up. Okay. The limiting factor. Okay. And so once you start engaging muscles or creating muscular tension in order to correct your biomechanics or stabilize your spine or once you put tension into the system, it's very, very difficult to have that tension. There's just a little dab in my Achilles. It's just a little dab here. And don't think, your brain is not mapped like that. You have tension in your jaw, you have tension in your pelvic floor, you have tension in your plantar fascia in your foot, you have tension in your hips. Like your brain, the neurobiology is pretty clear on all of this. And so once you start adding tension into the system, then you get confused. Well, why did I tighten up prematurely? Well, so you really do, like for me, is your muscles need to be at that level doing basically almost all their work in getting you to produce power. Okay. And as little as possible to do with stabilizing, controlling biomechanics. And that means intrinsically underneath, your biomechanics have to be exceptional. So you need a very, very aligned ankle. you need your hip, your underlying structure, and
It needs to be stacked.
Needs to be very, very stacked, so that you're putting as little sort of your resources into creating stack.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to be fluid, and that's why you have to have a sense of give and take, and that's why you have to have a sense of shoulder articulation.
Yeah.
And that's, I spoke to you about your present, the ball.
Yes.
Ball on head is a very, very powerful way of creating stack through your whole body.
Mm-hmm.
It unwinds a lot of tension in your body so that you create stack, which makes you more efficient.
Okay. Wanted to show one other video. Let's see if I can find the right one. Let's do this. There's one, bookmark this. I failed to do this, but bear with me while I look. Let's see if it's here. After we get rid of this ridiculous YouTube ad that you guys don't get to see because
click the link.
I was smart enough to click the link. So no, this is the finish. This is useless. Let me see if I can. No, it's earlier in the race. Forgive me here. Here we go. 2 hours of Strata. Don't worry, we won't watch all of it. Yeah, here we go.
Ooh.
Whoa, that was the old one. I love the fact that, did you see this year he went around that corner and he kind of called to the camera and was like, easy, easy, easy. This is great. We were there this year, Team of Coaching, we did a camp. So we watched on the Tolfe climb here.
Yeah.
We watched them go by. And we also got to do the Fondo the next day. So that was super fun.
Yeah,
I had done a lot of bike racing in a lot of places of the world, but I've never had raced in Tuscany. If you get the chance.
Nice.
I mean,
yeah.
You know, we've started to make a list of things that different countries do right. Clearly, Italy has pasta dialed wine. They've got that dialed, right? A lot of desserts are quite nice. They've got that dialed. Bread, not as much. Spain has amazing ham, right?
And olive oil.
And olive oil. And then we struggled to figure out what the US was good at, me and my friends, but then we figured out it was music and movies. Food, maybe not as much. I mean, I don't know that we can really claim like
smash
the
hamburger. Well, you know what's a lox bagel? I feel is like a great American food.
A lox bagel is
a lox bagel. Salmon bagel.
Okay. Yeah, but is that American or is that like Scottish or something?
I think it's Jewish.
Okay. Yeah, you're probably right. Okay.
Yeah, it's like I was thinking the other day. Like, a lox bagel is really great.
All right. Wait, let me make sure this is working right. Share. Oh, okay, there. Let's make sure we're sharing. Okay, cool. So here's this. This might be a good example, but what I was seeing here is this like almost snake-like motion.
Yes.
In his rib cage.
Yeah.
So here is initiating with the left crank. The crank is probably at about 1 hour above horizontal, we'd say.
Yeah.
So 10 o'clock on the left side. And the rib is, he's induced this functional scoliosis almost. And he's winding up. You can see this curve to the pelvis. So the opposite side, he's like loading up on this left side to come down, right? And then you see it on the other side as well. There's this snake-like movement.
And it's vertical and horizontal.
Yeah.
And so I used to call it ottering. So when you're head, you move like an otter.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, like doom, doom.
Okay.
So Candice Lill, you know, when we used to work with her, I used to say, where's the otter go? Because when she was too tight in the hips, when her core was locked out, when she was holding the bike too tightly, the otter would disappear. But when the otter was out, I knew she was racing well, and she just like flow over the terrain. So there's almost like a horizontal and a side to side.
Side to side, yeah. To me, it looks snake-like in his rib cage, especially.
Yeah.
And we can see, you know, little sort of fractals of that in other riders at times.
Yeah.
But when I picked up this movement pattern, I started to watch it in Tadej, and I realized like this, to me, this is spinal engine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is, but I was thinking about this, like, I don't think we want a very active psoas during cycling. Do you agree?
Yeah.
So
cycling is a pelvic stabilizer.
Yeah.
It's accessory postural muscle. It helps with breathing, and it's a hip flexor. Like, it's got quite a lot going on.
So if it's helping with breathing, obviously that's important, but we're kind of stuck in chronic hip flexion in cycling. We're not kind of stuck in hip flexion. We are absolutely welded into hip flexion in cycling.
Yeah. But, so I was thinking about Bradley Wiggins and keeping so still. There's a young lady, and you know her. I mean, she was shamed and mocked for moving around too much on a bicycle, and she kept still as possible.
Yeah.
So the emotion of shame drains blood from your pelvis.
Yes.
Okay. So if you had to do MRI or map out the blood flow through someone's body, when you shame them, the blood flow decreases through the pelvis. Like, rage is less blood flow through the forearm, or rage blood flows to your arms and gets shunted all over your body with different strong emotions. And she had 3 iliac artery decompressions.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean,
not
rough. Shamed.
Keep your pelvis still.
Lockdown. Blood flow reduced.
Blood flow reduced, and then you wonder why. You just think, is that a coincidence or is that not a coincidence? But I can tell you, you've got to relax your hips and rock what you got, and you got to express yourself authentically on the bike. And it's a tragedy that someone spoke to her in that way at a formative, vulnerable age on the wrong time, the wrong day. Regardless of how much blame. I'm not from a point of blame, from an interest.
And this is the trick about coaching and fitting, right? Is like, we see, I haven't mentioned this. Have you read this book by Manuel Arjona?
The training one.
Yeah.
No, it's on next to my bed.
It's great.
After I watch Arcane.
After you watch Arcane, he talks about how fundamentally humans are just complex systems.
Yeah.
And we see this thing and we apply this idea to it. Their handlebars are too close, their saddle's too high, or they are doing the wrong type of intervals. And they're gonna be so much better if we do 4-minute efforts instead of 20-minute thresholds or whatever. And this is fundamentally, it's an architecting of ideas based on preconceived notions about what they should be.
Yeah.
And we impose our belief system onto this athlete. But we do it usually with good intent. Like, ideally, we do it with good intent. At least we're trying to intervene in a complex system and we're offering an intervention to improve performance.
Yeah.
But his whole point is, like, it's like taking an aspirin and expecting it to fix,
a virus.
Yeah. Or fix a hurt knee, which it may or may not.
Yeah.
Right. But it might happen by accident. Like, the point is, we pull one lever out of 100 and we get some effect on the other end of the black box. And we really don't even know necessarily that the 4-minute intervals help them. Maybe it was the absence of the 20-minute intervals.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the 4-minute intervals. Maybe it was just the fact that someone actually paid fucking attention to their training program in a way that...
Well, a huge predictor of whether someone responds to a training program is 2 things. If the coach sees more potential in you than you believe you have, that's really good for high performance. If someone else believes in you and sees something great in you than you possibly see for yourself. Really good idea, generally speaking. My wife, of course, a coach told her to give up running, she'd never make it. So of course she went to the Olympics. So sometimes you can flip that narrative.
Right.
And then the other one is like, do you believe with every fiber of your being in what you're doing and that this is the program? You know? Because again, that, believing in what you're doing. So what I meant with the discipline is, like, a lot of people, like, we see it in running every time. A study shows that if you do sort of 8 weeks of this, then your running mechanics improve. And elite athletes, again, comparing, have this unique attribute. So if we do this, like, elite runners will have stiff tendons, elite athlete tendon stiffness. So if we stiffen our tendons, perhaps that will make us elite. Whereas, like, that would be saying, like, well, elite painters have this very fluid wrist, and so if we do fluid wrist exercises, now I'm suddenly going to paint.
Be a great painter.
Yeah, and it might improve your painting because you soften up your flow and your breath, you improve. But you're so far removed from being Picasso.
Yeah.
You're
not going to fix it with wrist drill.
If you start getting, like, you need, your art's going to look like shit. And no one's going to buy it, or music. Like, you can play the scales, you can put it into the system, and you can practice. But at some stage, again, what matters is what comes out of the system.
Yeah.
And that's the rub, and again, not being, giving someone stage fright about what finger's doing what, or making them overthink their guitar playing is not how a rock star manifest.
Yeah.
Or you sitting on the stage and saying, they twerk, or they wear fishnets. I'm going to fishnet. Like, no, there's a whole lot behind the charisma, the songwriting, the empathy, the total passion, the absolute immersion in a safe way into their craft. You know, and that's like cycling. Like, and what can you immerse yourself into sustainably? You know, and you've seen it all the time. People, you know, restrict calories because they want to lose weight. You can't immerse yourself in that game.
Yeah.
You know, like, so you really got to choose, like, some things you need to do, and you need to say, okay, we want a little bit of that. Or let's try it. But most people don't even have a healthy framework so that you can add and see, does this work for me or doesn't work this me? Because again, the system's so complex. So you almost don't have a baseline of actually what is working, what's not working, what can you trust, what can you immerse yourself in, you know, which is sad.
What comes to me is the movie, the Wachowski brothers movie, Speed Racer. I think in movies a lot. Did you see that one?
No, but they're great.
Like they really
the Wachowskis did the Matrix.
The Matrix. Yeah.
Speed Racer.
Speed Racer. They did an adaptation of Speed Racer, like the old cartoon.
Yeah.
But it's a live action film, and
okay, I need to watch it.
It's like
clearly
the end is really like it captures the essence of athleticism in a way, because it's just about this kid who became an adult and was just impassioned with driving. Like every fiber of his being was just a car driver, great car driver. And there's a scene, Susan Sarandon plays the mom, and there's a great scene where she's like, I just watch you do what you do, and it takes my breath away. And it, like, they just capture the essence of it so beautifully. That's the freedom and safety to be that person who takes your mom's breath away, doing what you love.
Totally.
Right?
You know, like in Taylor, so they're doing Taylor things. You can see that's an individual, authentic expression of Taylor rocking a bike. You know, and then like that's what we've got to find, you know, in what we do,
in whatever we do. You can't do it because someone told you to do it. You can't do it because you think you should do it. That's not authentic. That's you. That's you following someone else's script, or that's you. You can't do it stepping into it being unsure. Like you really love it, but you're just not. You're always thinking like, I don't know.
The Japanese. I read something on like I can't remember. It's like Guido or something. So this Japanese steps to mastery. First, you need to acknowledge that it's going to be a lot of hard work and a massive commitment. So decide whether you're going to commit or not, right? So that will be step one, is acknowledging the commitment and the work and the effort that it's going to take to become masterful at sushi, rice, or whatever it is that
sword making
or calligraphy, right? And within that, okay, when you know these sayings, there's a Japanese sword maker saying, and there's the quicker ones, sort of meditation, like enlightenment. You know, the student goes to the master and says, "Master, how long to become enlightened?" He says, 10 years. He says, "But I'll be the best student. I'm going to try the hardest. I'll outwork everyone." He says, "Oh, well, then it's going to take 20 years." Okay, so within the acknowledgement of the hard work is like there is space or breathing room, right? You know, and then there's which is interesting. Like we've just had this whole comment, like don't copy people too much, or be very careful of what you do copy. Then I reckon immerse yourself in a master, understand his process, you know, paint his paintings, understand everything that the master did to achieve mastery. You know, try and see it from his point of view. You have to immerse yourself, you know, and then
which is different than copying.
Which is different from copying, understanding from where it came from. Probably better. Not imitating and not getting pulled out of your process. And then, you know, the mastery phase is again back to then you must have fun, you must have curiosity, there must be play, and there must be creativity, because then only then can you express something different from what's out there, or find your authentic voice.
All that you just mentioned is so counter to modern cycling power meter culture. There's no play. You have to be at the top of your watts, man. Every interval. If your range is from here to here, you're doing it better if you're at the top of that range. You're crushing it.
And that's just external judgments, and judgments has got nothing to do with interoception. You know, like Steve Magnus posted, I don't sit that much on Instagram, believe it or not.
That's good.
But you know, he posted today about like the average age of kids weaning off diapers is like radically old now. And it's because in the old day, you either didn't have diapers, you weaned off, or they were cloth. And so when you peed in your cloth diaper, you felt it.
Yeah, it sucked.
You know, now it's like just
comfort
absorbent. So
device.
like you hours in a nappy, and it's not changed. And so basically, so people are losing interoception, and the phones are pulling us out of our embodiment and stuff. And so basically, you know, like your soul has been stolen from you, your purpose, and it's all externalities. What's your metrics? What's your heart rate? Everything around you is just pulling you from your process all the time. And like people, you know, you want to go back and definitely in cycling, tape up your power meter and then predict the watts and say, I did 4x4 minutes and these were my watts, and then have a look. And, you know, one day you might be surprised that shit, that's 10% higher than I thought.
I used to play this game all the time.
Yeah.
I used to do the instant power game. I'd be riding and I'd be like 172, look down. It'd be like 171.
Yeah.
I got really good at it.
Yeah.
That's a powerful game. It's a great way to develop a better relationship with your device, I think.
And again, you know, I had an athlete running and it clicked for them. And I said, we need to acknowledge this moment, because at the moment, it's again, this movement is interoception. You manifesting from the inside out. Like this is an expression of you in this process. And you need to acknowledge it, because you basically, it's a seed that you want to plant and grow into a tree. You want to try and let that expression happen again and again and again. You know, and that's what Tadej is. He gets on the bike and he knows, I'm going to have a no chain day. I'm going to have this, because he's practiced that sense of like authenticity and ownership. And it's really interesting. It's like, I mean, Amber Neben, you should definitely have a podcast with Amber. It's great to talk about. You know, she fractured her pelvis and was in pain and inhibition for 2 years. You know, when she came to me, she said, I know I'll never ride my bike like I used to. I just don't want to ride in pain. And after that, she got to the point where she was USA champion, road and time trial in the same year. She went to a world championship. She won a world championships, and she went to the Olympics. And that was all in her 4th decade. Really cool person to speak, because that gift was taken away to the point where she never believed it would come back. You know, so you know, and the one season she went through, she just couldn't express her watts, and they just gone. She couldn't find her rhythms. And like asking her to express, what was it when you raced that when those watts weren't there? And you know you fit enough. There's not a fitness problem. You know you're fit enough. You know you've done the work, but you can't articulate the watts in the sequencing, the pattern in a way to be the world champion or podium. You know, and so and like I say, that's where my thoughts go, and that's why I sort of moved away a lot from physiologies. When I started seeing this, you started realizing, well, that's the game. Whereas you can get stuck on, I mean, God bless physiology, and it's great, but you can get stuck behind a spreadsheet and numbers and saying, these are your power meters and these are your ranges. And I can tell you, like, you can work so hard to bump that threshold of yours up and have this whole program, and that's true. But you can change the nature of how you produce those watts, and you can bump that threshold up probably 25, 30 watts overnight. And I've seen it happen, You know, and then your relationship to the sport starts to reframe, which is kind of what you want to do. So that's my take home. If you look at all of this, is like to see in Tadej an expression of authenticity. He's got no externalities. Like if you look at his cycling, it doesn't look like someone told him to keep his head still, shoulder cool, engage his core, roll his pelvis back, stiffen up his ankles.
Right.
You know, he's just doing it in the moment.
He's just
Tadej things.
blowing his mom away. Right. And everybody else.
And us. That's why it's so amazing to watch, and it's great for the sport. You know, it's not, I mean, some things you look and you just say, geez, that's not credible. You know, I see what you're doing, but like, I'm not buying that. I'm not a believer, or I don't buy into it, you know?
He's just on a mission here. I've often said that, and I've heard you say this on your podcast as well, like running is rotation. Right. And this is what I mean when I say that in cycling too. Like it's out of the saddle, it's easier to see, but here, this is rotation happening. This is a spiral strategy to make power. The legs are stacked. We don't see a spiral necessarily happening at the femur or the tibia, although for sure it is on some level. But the more obvious way to look at it is you see the spiral winding up through the pelvis and the shoulders and the relationship with the power driving leg at that moment. Is that fair?
Well, I mean, glute max produces power in a spiral. If you just go and look at the anatomy and the directions of the fibers, it's a spiral.
Yeah.
Your knee should act as a hinge joint. It needs play, but generally speaking, if you look at a human, your midfoot should rotate, your hips rotate, and your thoracic spine rotates. Rotates. That's rotation. Your lumbar spine shouldn't rotate. It should side bend or flex. So that's like otter or snake. It shouldn't twist. And for a lot of people, like if you look at the cyclist and you see rotation in the pelvis when it's rocking, it's very easy to say your core's not strong, but probably your lower back's disconnected because your mechanics of your lower back are disconnected. And that's common because you had such a misaligned pelvis and you upper body fought your lower body and you're just basically wearing out your lower back.
Yep.
So that there's a whole back end story to that, and I don't think engaging your core is necessarily the solution.
It's not going to help.
There's a lot of things to unwind and unpack. And again, if you listen this long, thank you, because we are going on a bit. But ball on head, So there's Colby's ball, and he's going to teach you how to do ball on head.
Okay, let me. Okay, now we're on. So tell us the concept.
So ball on head, Jing Palace. Called me out on this. So ball on head basically gives you really, really organized upper cervical region and occipital glide. And it's a great antidote to head forward on the bicycle and screen neck posture. And once it creates upper cervical structure and stability, that basically ripples down through your body. And I'd love to see the comments of people that try this. Your ankle alignment, your forefoot varus, your asymmetries on the bike, one knee, the rotations, they'll all start to unwind. You really powerfully organize your upper cervical region. It's incredible how much it opens up from a neural and dural tension point of view and extremity alignment. Like your calcaneus will open up. It's unbelievable. And then the other thing that it does, which is, so when I put the ball on my head, you sort of end up lengthening your head and then watch my chest, and it really helps get breath into this part of your body, which a lot of times we can be compressed here and not breathing without healthily into here. So that's not shoulder breathing, that's your upper rib cage lifting. And if you see an athlete and this is starting to open up and their breath's coming up into here, they're moving well. That's like so anyway, ball on head, it's very simple. You just rock a ball, I'm nodding, roll the ball, nod side to side, do some circles. We typically don't do it seated. I do it standing with heels down. So I've got a little video on it and I'll show you.
So this is it's slightly squishy.
That's a TheraBand ball. You can use a medicine ball, you can use a soccer ball. Later on you want to use these are nice for traveling because you can kind of travel with it. So
my suitcase is already really heavy though. This weighs 5 pounds or something.
I think it's not quite 5 pounds. 4 pounds maybe. But my personal one is a 7-pound gel ball.
Okay.
Like that. That's this big. You could use your medicine ball.
Yeah.
Because you almost want a bit of weight, so you push up into it. But you can start with a soccer ball, baseball.
Okay.
Not a baseball, basketball. And like 2-3 minutes a day. It's extraordinary.
Doing circles side to side.
Yeah. Nod.
Yeah.
Side to side, and it just gives you occipital glide and gives you an animated, relaxed head. And it really, really strengthens your posterior occipital muscles. Your posterior occipital muscles have more nerve, have as many sensory fibers as your hands.
Yeah.
And they link to your eye, and they link to your breathing pattern, and they link to your posture, and they link to your hamstring tone and your lower back tone. So, and what this does as well, once you create organization here, your sacrum opens up. And so I'm going to be really excited to hear what you've got to say about people with just distorted sacrums and tight and twisted pelvises. Because you unwind their neck and you watch those sacrums start to fall into place.
Okay.
It's a gift.
Okay.
It's really, I mean, I can't believe I went through the world trying to help people with their posture and movement and spine and breathing for 30 years and didn't know about that.
All right. Every once in a while we get a gift.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
If we behave ourselves.
Yes. And if we're open to receiving.
Yeah, exactly.
Lawrence, thank you
Cool.
so much.
Thank you. That
we
was
went for
wonderful.
quite a while.
We're going to do that again.
Might break this into two. Yeah.
Next time I'm bringing water.
Okay. Sorry, I should have offered you some. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Colby. It was great.
Okay.
I love your work. And
thank you.
Look after yourselves, everyone.
Yes. Ciao.
Ciao.
Attention, well dippers. Did you know that I offer a unique service at my studio in Boulder, Colorado? An integrative fitting is the culmination of my experience and understanding that helps an athlete have a deeper insight into their relationship to cycling and movement. This is understood in the context of how the dream, goal, or objective aligns the client's choices and habits. The psyche, the environment, and drive will all influence the current expression of athletic ability. As we understand these factors, we can shape and direct athletic potential. What this means in a practical sense is that we spend about 6 hours working together, including a short or outdoor ride. We will film you on and off the bike, and we will discuss an extensive intake questionnaire. You will leave the fitting with a unique perspective on your function and with actionable pathways to improve your performance. This service was created specifically to help cyclists who have been through various fitting sessions and have had unsuccessful or unsatisfactory results. We dig deeper to find more meaningful outcomes. If you are interested in knowing more about an integrative fitting, please visit my website, colbypierce.com, where you can book an appointment. Epilogue. I want to share a few brief thoughts about the inception of cycling and alignment. The purpose of this podcast is for me to get 3.5 decades of hard-fought lessons out of my skull. Some of them through my own research and reading. Some of them I've been taught through mentors and colleagues, other riders, other racers. A lot of it, a massive amount of it, was simply trial and error through my own stubborn methods. And that has amassed a certain amount of experience and knowledge, understanding. And while I think I'm reasonably smart and I know quite a bit of stuff, I want to make it clear that the opinions that I share on this podcast are belief systems built on what I've experienced to this point. And that some of those opinions are pretty strong, but they are also loosely held. That is to say that if I learn more about a topic and have a greater level of clarity or understanding, then my old belief systems will be abandoned and I will now operate under that newfound knowledge. So I'm not here to tell people all the things that I know. I'm here to explain what I've learned to this point. And there's a big difference. Also, that is the intent when I discuss things on the pod with guests, is to learn from them and have a discourse. Because if we can't have a discourse as adults, then we've lost one of the basic tenets of modern society. Even if we disagree, we ought to be able to, in most cases, shake hands and walk away. Because after all, this is sport we're talking about, and while sport is training for life, it's nothing to get too upset over. The purpose of the podcast is to help me help other people, and specifically to help them actualize their highest potential by illuminating a path that enables alignment with their truth, their intent, and their coherence. That's really the end goal. So I'm grateful for your listening. My intent is also not, to be clear, to gain an audience or become popular or gain social status in any way. I don't care about that stuff. That said, if you feel an episode that you have heard will help someone you know, please share it with them. That helps us reach the end goal, which is to help more people. Thank you for listening. I'm grateful for your time and attention. Blessings.